What if the most anticipated tech event of the year, Apple's annual iOS update, wasn't a gift? What if it wasn't a meticulously engineered improvement designed to make your life easier or your expensive iPhone feel brand new? Would it be a lie? We watch the keynotes, see the slick demos, and feel that familiar spark of excitement for the future Apple is selling us. We trust them. We trust that the folks in Cupertino are working to make the products we've integrated so deeply into our lives even better. But what if that trust has been misplaced? What if this year's update beneath its shiny surface is a calculated move with a single, cynical purpose? To make you feel like the phone in your hand, the one you were perfectly happy with yesterday, is suddenly obsolete. It sounds like a paranoid conspiracy theory, but as we start to peel back the layers of this new iOS, a disturbing picture begins to emerge. We need to expose the truth behind the features they're so proudly promoting. And, far more importantly, the revolutionary features they're deliberately hiding from you. By the end, you'll see that this update isn't just a collection of bugs and bad design choices. It's a deception, and the truth behind it is far more shocking than you'd ever imagine. The very first thing that assaults your senses after the long update process is the new look. It's the most immediate, the most aggressive, and the most jarring change, and it's where the first bright red flag majestically plants itself. Apple has unceremoniously thrown out its clean, iconic, and universally understood interface for a new, transparent, so-called glass design. If it gives you a strange sense of digital déjà vu, you're not alone. The moment it went live, the internet immediately erupted with the same bewildered question. Is Apple just shamelessly copying Android now? The entire aesthetic feels heavily inspired by, if not directly lifted from, phone makers like Xiaomi, which have been using this kind of semi-transparent, layered design for years. But the critique goes deeper than just being a copycat. For many users who have been in the tech world for a while, it felt like a bizarre and unwelcome trip back in time to 2007. It's a haunting reminder of the Windows Vista operating system and its infamous Aero look. That was an era of skeuomorphism, where designers tried to make digital elements look like real-world objects. In that case, panes of frosted glass. The industry has since moved on to cleaner, flatter, more functional design language, which makes Apple's decision to resurrect this zombie aesthetic in 2024 utterly baffling. Why would a company that prides itself on being the North Star of design innovation release something that feels almost 2 decades old?
The problem isn't just that it's unoriginal or stylistically dated. The real, infuriating issue is that it's a functional catastrophe. Apple's newfound obsession with transparency means that your notifications, your widgets, your control center, everything now floats precariously over your wallpaper. In theory, it might have sounded cool in a design meeting. In practice, it means text becomes a blurry, unreadable, chaotic mess. Imagine trying to read a critical work email, but the words are ghosting over a colorful, busy picture of your dog at the beach. Or trying to decipher an urgent text message that's visually competing with the faces of your family in your background photo. Simple, everyday tasks are now a chore, a constant struggle to distinguish essential information from the background image.
It is the most classic and egregious case of prioritizing a flawed form over essential function. And it's the first undeniable piece of evidence that this update was not designed with the user's experience in mind. Of course, Apple's marketing department tried to sell this update on the hollow promise of unprecedented customization. They showcased flashy, energetic new ways to personalize your lock screen and home screen, promising a level of granular control you've never had on an iPhone before. You can now tint your app icons with any color you want, creating a monochrome or duotone theme. You can make them larger for better visibility, or remove the names for a minimalist look. The lock screen, they claimed, got even more attention with the ability to tweak the font and color of the clock. They proudly showed off how you could finally, after all these years, break free from the rigid, oppressive grid of apps and place them wherever you wanted on the screen. In the keynote presentation, it all looked so fluid, so seamless, so perfect. The demos were polished to a mirror shine, generating that familiar feeling of digital desire. It looked like Apple was finally listening to years of user requests and feedback. And to cap it all off, a key feature they highlighted was a new 3D depth effect for your wallpapers. This subtle effect makes your background image shift and react as you move your phone, creating an elegant illusion of depth that looks genuinely cool and futuristic. It's the kind of polished, impressive, and magical feature that you expect from Apple. For a fleeting moment, it creates a real, tangible sense of excitement. You start to think that maybe, just maybe, Despite the ugly and dysfunctional design, this update has some truly redeeming qualities. But that optimistic feeling doesn't last long at all.
That's because the deep customization they promised is nothing more than a half-baked illusion, a bait and switch. You were excited to resize the clock on your lock screen to fit your aesthetic perfectly? Well, you can, but only if you use the boring default font option. All the other more interesting and stylish fonts are inexplicably locked into a standard size. The entire system is riddled with these strange, arbitrary, and very un-Apple-like limitations that make you feel cheated. But that's just a minor annoyance, a frustrating quirk, compared to the first real betrayal of this update. That stunning, magical 3D wallpaper effect, the one that added a touch of futuristic magic to the otherwise ugly software, it turns out you probably can't even use it. Apple, in its classic fashion, buried the fine print deep in the footnotes, revealing that this feature is only available for the iPhone 12 and newer models. If you have an iPhone 11, a device that is still incredibly popular and powerful, you're simply out of luck. This is where the sinister pattern begins to reveal itself. This isn't about a technical limitation. The hardware is more than capable. This is about drawing an artificial line in the sand. It's the first clear signal that Apple is actively choosing to leave millions of its most loyal users behind, creating an artificial class system between those who have the newest phones and those who don't. It's a foundational example of planned obsolescence, designed to make your perfectly good phone feel inadequate. It's a decision that doesn't push the limits of technology. It pushes the limits of customer loyalty. But even if you're one of the lucky ones with a newer phone that supports the 3D effect, you're not safe because you will immediately run headfirst into the next, much larger problem. The performance of this update is an absolute, unmitigated nightmare. This isn't just a few minor bugs and stutters you might expect from a new 0.0 release. The entire system is slow, heavy, bloated, and frustratingly unstable. It feels like a poorly optimized beta that never should have been released to the public. Almost immediately after it launched, users started reporting severe and alarming issues across the board. Just navigating the new customization menus, a task that should be lightweight and simple, is now enough to make the phone become noticeably, worryingly hot to the touch. Your phone, a sleek marvel of engineering, suddenly feels like a hot potato you have to juggle during basic operation. It feels as if the device is constantly struggling to keep up with the demands of its own software, like it's running a marathon in quicksand. Users have described the experience as trying to run modern, graphically intensive software on a decade-old computer. Simple, everyday tasks now cause a catastrophic drain on the battery. You might leave the house with a 100% charge, and after an hour of just light use, like scrolling social media or responding to texts, you're already below 50%. And scrambling for a charger, a problem you never had the day before the update. The experience is littered with infuriating glitches. Icons randomly disappear from the home screen, leaving blank spaces. The 3D effect, when it does work, often bugs out, trapping the clock permanently behind the wallpaper. It is a complete and utter mess. The performance degradation is so profound that it feels almost intentional. It's as if Apple is sending a clear, unspoken message. Your current phone is no longer good enough to run our new software. The only solution, of course, is to buy a new one. And that brings us to the glittering centerpiece of the entire update, Apple Intelligence. This was supposed to be Apple's grand, triumphant entry into the global AI race. Their powerful answer to the groundbreaking features we've seen from competitors like Google and Samsung. On the surface, it looks absolutely incredible. They demonstrated a suite of truly futuristic tools that promised to fundamentally change how you use your iPhone. One of the standout features is a circle-to-search competitor. You can simply draw a circle around anything on your screen. A plant you want to identify, a piece of furniture you want to buy, a landmark in a photo, and the AI will instantly understand and search for it. They showcased how the AI can read a cluttered event flyer directly from a photo or a screenshot and automatically, intelligently create a calendar entry for you, pulling the correct date, time, and location from the image. They even revealed real-time language translation built directly into your iMessage and phone calls, a feature that could break down communication barriers across the globe, changing everything from international business to personal travel. This is the stuff of science fiction we've been promised for years. These are the game-changing, genuinely useful features that make a software update feel essential and exciting. This is the AI revolution that Apple promised was coming. But then comes the catch, and it's the biggest, most cynical catch of all. Here it is,
the single most shocking, most deceptive, and most insulting part of this entire update. This is the ugly truth that exposes Apple's entire strategy. Nearly all of those revolutionary AI features, the smart search, the automatic calendar entries, the live translations, the very heart and soul of Apple Intelligence, are exclusively reserved for the iPhone 15 Pro and the models that will come after it. Let that sink in for a moment. This isn't just about cutting off support for 5-year-old phones that might not have the processing power. If you walked into an Apple store and bought the brand new standard iPhone 15 just last week, you are cut off. You don't get the features. If you have an iPhone 14 Pro, a device that is still a powerhouse by any metric, you are completely excluded from Apple's AI future. Apple has made the conscious, deliberate decision that its most groundbreaking software is only for those who buy their most expensive, top-of-the-line handset. It's an unprecedented level of software fragmentation designed for one thing: to drive sales of their most profitable products. This move makes it painfully, undeniably clear that the update was never about improving the experience for all users. It was about creating a new, premium class of software features and using them as a weapon to force upgrades.
Meanwhile, you can get many of these same impressive AI features on a Samsung S23, a phone that is both older and significantly cheaper. Apple isn't lagging behind in technology. They are deliberately and strategically holding it back from you. It is the ultimate betrayal of customer loyalty.
So, if you're one of the tens of millions of iPhone users who don't own the latest Pro model, you're left asking a very simple, very fair question. What do I actually get from this update? Once you strip away the incredible AI features you're not allowed to have and the flashy visual effects your phone supposedly can't run, what is actually left for you? The answer is shocking in its emptiness. You get a controversial and ugly visual redesign that makes your phone harder to use. You get a significant, measurable hit to your battery life and a system that overheats and glitches constantly, and you get a handful of minor, superficial app redesigns that are barely worth mentioning.
Sure, the Photos app is a little simpler now, combining albums and libraries into one main feed. A change some might like and others might hate. The phone app and keyboard have been given a slight facelift, a thin coat of paint to match the new transparent aesthetic. But these are not meaningful improvements. They don't change the way you use your phone in any significant way. For the vast majority of Apple's massive user base, this update is a monumental step backward. You are essentially forced to download a new operating system that makes your device slower, buggier, hotter, and uglier, all for the, quote, privilege of being taunted by a suite of exciting new features that your device is artificially blocked from ever using. Even the one area where Apple claims to be giving you more control turns out to be nothing more than a carefully constructed illusion of choice. After the immediate and fierce backlash against the messy, unreadable, transparent design, people quickly discovered that you could, in fact, turn it off. The option is buried deep within the accessibility settings, a menu most users never venture into. It's an option called Reduce Transparency. But what happens when you enable it is almost more insulting than the problem it's meant to solve. It doesn't revert your phone to the classic, clean, and functional iOS look you're used to. Instead, it replaces all the transparent elements with a solid, lifeless, depressing gray. Your beautiful, personal wallpaper vanishes. Your control center and notifications are now backed by a dull, flat, gray slab. It looks like a phone stuck in safe mode, or a cheap prototype that never got its final design. Apple has effectively given you two terrible options: a chaotic, unusable design that's a constant strain on the eyes, or a boring, soulless, ugly interface that strips all the personality and joy from your device. There is no middle ground. There is no option to go back. You are forced to choose between two fundamentally bad designs, which feels less like a choice and more like a punishment for not liking their new direction. So let's put all the pieces of this puzzle together. Apple has released a major iOS update that introduces a divisive, dated, and functionally flawed visual design. The software is plagued with serious performance issues that make even recent and powerful iPhones feel slow, old, and unreliable. And most critically, it reserves all of its best, most innovative, and most desirable features for the top 1% of its newest, most expensive models. deliberately leaving almost the entirety of its user base with a significantly worse experience than they had before. It's hard to look at this mountain of evidence and dismiss it as just a series of unfortunate mistakes or a typically buggy initial release. It feels methodical. It feels deliberate. It feels like a calculated corporate strategy.
Is it really so hard to believe that Apple, a multi-trillion-dollar company facing constant pressure from Wall Street to keep its impossible growth numbers high, would intentionally frustrate its user base to engineer a massive, record-breaking wave of upgrades? Are they making your current phone worse on purpose to make the allure of the next quote-unquote fixed iPhone impossible for you to resist? We can't know for sure what happens in the secret meetings behind the closed doors of their spaceship campus, but when you look at the facts, the conclusion is as clear as it is deeply disturbing. This update isn't for you. It was never meant for you. It was meant for their bottom line.